on a topic that nowadays is extremely current. Thank you. One more. My speech will concern socio-cultural changes as a tool for European integration. The process of European integration within the European Union is leading to the unification into a single organization of states that share common values, amongst which Christianity has played and continues to play a special role. Moreover, Christianity is not only a part of European history, but for millions of people it constitutes a reality that helps shape European identity. This does not, of course, mean that everyone must embrace the Christian heritage. Nevertheless, one cannot deny the contribution of Christianity as a universal factor of integration process. At the organizational and political level, the process of European integration is moving towards the creation of a single confederated state, something akin to a United States of Europe. The situation is worse at the socio-cultural level, where the integration process is hampered by numerous barriers that are difficult to overcome, stemming from the differences between individual states and mutual distrust, shaped by negative historical experiences. In view of these, steps have been taken to strengthen a sense of European identity, encompassing all the indigenous inhabitants of Europe, which is intended to accelerate the integration process. In this context, one might ask, why is European identity important? What is the correlation between national identity and European identity? National identity is based on primal bonds rooted in kinship, historical memory, shared culture, language, traditions, specific customs, values, and symbols that reinforce a sense of loyalty. European identity is based on rational premises and tangible benefits experienced by individuals and the communities they form as a result of European integration. It is based on a community of goals and values and a shared political vision of the future. It follows that national identity is emotional in nature, whereas European identity is functional in nature. National identity shapes the mutual relations between member states and the European Union, as reflected in Article 4 of the Treaty of Lisbon, which states inter alia that the European Union respects national identity, which is inextricably linked to the fundamental political and constitutional structures of the member states. A similar formulation is contained in the Charter of Fundamental Rights, which states in its preamble that the European Union contributes to the preservation and development of common values, whilst respecting the diversity of the cultures and traditions of the peoples of Europe, as well as the national identities of the member states and the organization of the public authorities at national, regional, and local levels. Thus, the preservation of national identities is an obligation of the European Union. To stimulate the process of European integration, European identity must be redefined, all the more so because it cannot be based on a common pan-European collective memory, a linguistic community, a historical territory, or a universal identification with common customs cultivated on a European scale. This is why integration efforts have focused on the three dimensions that shape European identity: social, cultural, and functional. Social identity involves fostering a sense of belonging to the European Union based on the concept of EU citizenship. The catalogue of rights associated with EU citizenship includes the right to move and reside freely within the territory of the member states, to vote and stand as a candidate in local and European Parliament elections, to participate in the European Citizens Initiative, to diplomatic and consular protection from the governments of other member states in third countries, to petition the European Parliament, to lodge a complaint with the European Ombudsman, the right to information in an official language of the European Union, and to access to European Union documents. The institution of EU citizenship has been reinforced by appropriate symbols, the flag and anthem of the European Union, and the establishment of the 9th of May as Europe Day. The European Union also has its own motto, united in diversity. In this sense, European identity is expressed through identification with EU institutions, the internalization of the norms applicable within the European Union, acceptance of the political and territorial structure of the European Union, and active participation in its political life. All these activities fall within the realm of invented traditions with aim to foster a sense of belonging to a single community. Nevertheless, awareness of and the exercise of citizens' rights remain limited. According to data from the standard Eurobarometer of 2024, only 13% of respondents were aware of the rights associated with EU citizenship. The fundamental reason for the limited development of a social identity based on the concept of EU citizenship is the phenomenon of democratic deficit resulting from the fact that EU citizens are deprived of any real influence over the actions of EU institutions. A very important element supporting the process of European integration is the culture shared by the member states, the foundations of which are rooted in Greek culture and intellectual traditions, Roman state and legal traditions, and the heritage of Christianity and Renaissance humanism. The system of values shaped on this basis constitutes the source of values that are key to Europeans, such as democracy, freedom, solidarity, the protection of human dignity, tolerance, egalitarianism, justice, the rule of law, self-government, respect for private property, etc. It should be noted, however, that these values are also characteristic of non-European Western societies, which significantly limits the extent to which they can be involved in the construction of a common European culture identity. The process of Europeanization in the cultural sphere is implemented through EU culture programs. For example, culture, media, creative Europe, Europe for citizens, and through initiatives such as the European Capital of Culture, the European Union Prize for Literature, the European Heritage Label for sites of strong European symbol value, the European Heritage Days, the European Year of Creativity and Innovation, the European Year of Intercultural Dialogue, the European Year of Citizens, and the European Year of Cultural Heritage. All this is intended to strengthen the sense of belonging to a shared cultural area. Cultural aspects are present in many areas of European Union policy, particularly in the fields of education and research. The instruments of Europeanization in the fields of education and research are educational programs that promote mobility among pupils and students, teaching and academic staff, and social and educational instructors such as Erasmus, Socrates, Youth, Lifelong Learning, Youth in Action, Erasmus+, Horizon Europe. This is also the aim of the Bologna process, launched in 1999, which seeks to create more compatible and comparable higher education systems through the introduction of a free-cycle academic education system, the introduction of a diploma supplement, the ICTS credit system, and the establishment of quality assurance systems. All these education and training programs are intending to foster a European identity among their beneficiaries. The expected outcome is to nurture informed Europeans who will identify with Europe's culture heritage. Functional identity, on the other hand, is based on the success of European Union as a project leading to the creation of maintenance of a specific functional area founded on a single market, the absence of borders, and a common currency, which also holds symbolic significance. It is assumed that the benefits of operating within such a political and economic entity strengthen the bonds between European citizens. Undoubtedly, the single market, which unites European economies within a common production and trade area, has significantly simplified the day-to-day operations of businesses, workers, and consumers. This involves the harmonization of labor laws, the creation of a system for the mutual recognition of migrant workers' qualifications, and the coordination of national social security systems. Awareness of the benefits of integration process is heightened by European structural and investment funds. Information boards detailing local investments, roads, sewerage, water supply, sewage treatment plants, etc., completed or modernized using EU funds, draw people towards the supranational center of power and help foster a sense of community on a macro scale. Even ordinary roaming, thanks to the harmonization of charges for calls made within the European Union, allows people to feel like members of a single community. However, in times of crisis, various restrictive measures are introduced to overcome them, such as austerity policies or the relocation of refugees, which cause satisfaction with integration to drop significantly. Added to this is the use of a conditionality mechanism to achieve short-term political goals and excessive bureaucratization, which generates high costs for maintaining EU institutions. The curtailment of national sovereignty is also not conducive to fostering a deeper sense of identification with the European Union. A telling example of this is the introduction euro, as a result of which national sovereignty over monetary policy has been curtailed and transferred to a supranational level, to a new center of monetary authority, the European Central Bank. To sum up, a sense of community is essential for the success of European integration. However, it cannot be achieved by exerting pressure, primarily financial, on member states to force them to comply with political decisions that run counter to the national interests of the sovereign member states that make up the European Union. It must be clearly emphasized that the European Union is not a federal state, but a homeland of homelands in which local and regional diversity is a value, not an obstacle to the integration process. Therefore, we must not destroy what is specific and unique. We must not blur differences and strive to create political, economic, or cultural monoliths. Europe is not a monolith, but a cultural and ideological mosaic in which every element is different. Yet each plays an essential and irreplaceable role, contributing to the shaping of a European identity shared by all. Where this will ultimately lead remains to be seen. What is clear, however, is that common goals can only be achieved through consensus and respect for the autonomy of all partners treated on an equal footing. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you one more.